Today, we are taking on a single but truly monumental text. We're treating it like the multi-layered philosophical guide that it really is.
Which one is it?
Paulo Coelho's international phenomenon, The Alchemist.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Alchemist. That's definitely essential reading for anyone really grappling with destiny, dreams, personal purpose. It covers so much ground.
It really does.
And when you say phenomenon, the numbers are just staggering. It's been translated into over 80 different languages.
Wow.
Yeah, 80. Which apparently makes it the most translated book by any living author. That kind of reach. It tells you the message is hitting something universal.
Absolutely. 80 languages. That puts it in a very small, very elite class. And it's not just about sales numbers, is it? Critics often put it alongside The Little Prince.
That's right. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry's classic. They see The Alchemist as a kind of modern fable. Inspirational, transcends easy genres.
And it stuck around. Over 300 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. That's staying power.
It is. And what's really fascinating, almost meta, is the story behind the story, how it came to be.
You mean Coelho's own journey?
Exactly. He wasn't just like making up a quest narrative. He said he wrote it about his own quest to find his treasure, which for him was realizing he could actually write.
So he was living his personal legend while writing about it.
Pretty much. Which makes the next part even more poignant.
Because it wasn't an instant success at all.
No. There's a huge lesson right there for anyone facing rejection or a slow start. When it first came out in Brazil, 25 years ago, it bombed.
Completely failed.
Yeah. The original publisher saw the poor sales and just canceled the contract.
But
Stopped him.
Imagine that. You pour your own quest onto the page, nothing.
He was 41, apparently felt pretty desperate. But he held on to that core belief from the book itself that the universe conspires to help you if you commit. Eventually, a second publisher took a gamble. And then it just grew. Slowly. Organically. Purely word of mouth at first.
No big marketing push initially.
Not really. Just people telling people. Later on, sure, you had figures like Bill Clinton and Madonna mentioning it, which obviously amplified things hugely. But that initial slow burn, driven by readers, it proves the book's own message, doesn't it?
It really does. The ultimate validation. A story about following your dreams almost died because of a real-world setback.
Yeah.
So our mission in this deep dive, we need to go beyond just retelling the plot.
Agreed.
We're going deep into Santiago's journey, the shepherd boy story, to really pull out those philosophical nuggets, those key turns that make The Alchemist more than just a story. It's almost a guide, a challenging one, for figuring out your own path.
Exactly. We want to understand not just what Santiago goes through, but why Coelho puts him through those specific trials. What's being taught. So let's start at the beginning. Let's define the quest itself.
Okay, so Santiago, our protagonist. We meet him. He's a shepherd in Andalusia, Spain. He's traveling with his sheep, and he arrives at this abandoned, ruined church.
Yeah. The setting itself is loaded with symbolism right away. The roof's caved in, but there's this huge, vibrant sycamore tree growing right out of the sacristy where the sacred stuff used to be kept.
So decay, but also new life.
Precisely. Nature reclaiming the structure. And it mirrors Santiago's own choice. His parents wanted him to be a priest. He even studied Latin, theology.
But he chose shepherding instead.
He chose travel, independence. He wanted to see the world. He figured learning about the world was more important than learning about God or human sins. Initially, anyway.
And the book nails that feeling of the quiet comfort of routine. At the start, he's got this amazing connection with his sheep. Talks to them, reads to them. He knows their needs, their schedule.
He does. But then comes that little moment of doubt, that first crack in his contentment. He thinks, maybe it's the other way around.
That it was he who had become accustomed to their schedule.
Exactly. That realization that comfort can become its own kind of prison. That maybe he wasn't leading, he was following the flock's routine.
And that's the catalyst, really, because right after that unease surfaces, the dream comes.
The recurring dream. He's sleeping under that same sycamore tree in the ruined church. And twice he has the same dream.
Tell us about it.
A child appears, plays with his sheep for a bit, and then takes Santiago's hands and transports him, magically, all the way to the Egyptian pyramids. And right as the child is about to show him the location of a hidden treasure near the pyramids, he wakes up.
Twice. Okay. So naturally he needs answers. First stop, a gypsy woman in Tarifa.
Right. And this interaction immediately sets up a theme. Seeking wisdom often has a price. She listens, interprets the dream very literally, go to Egypt, find the treasure near the pyramids. Simple.
But the price isn't simple.
No. She demands 1/10 of the treasure, if he finds it.
And Santiago's reaction is skeptical. to say the least.
Totally understandable. Pay for advice about a dream treasure that might not even exist. But she makes him swear on the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And she explains something important about the dream.
What's that?
She says it's spoken in the language of the world. And that language often reveals extraordinary things in simple packages, things only the wise can really grasp without help. She admits she isn't wise enough, so she relies on her divination, her tools, and the payment. It's partly to make him remember the cost, even of simple truths.
Okay, so he leaves the gypsy, still unsure. Then comes the king.
Melchizedek, the king of Salem. This is where the story signals, okay, we are moving beyond everyday reality now.
Because he just knows things.
Knows everything. He sits down with Santiago in the town square, starts drawing in the sand, and just casually reveals Santiago's entire life story. Parents' names, the seminary he attended, even the name of the merchant's daughter Santiago has a crush on.
That's unnerving. Why put such an overtly supernatural element in so early?
I think Coelho uses Melchizedek as this undeniable Proust. Like an omen Santiago can't ignore, it forces him to accept that maybe this dream, this journey, is bigger than him. It's cosmically significant, even if he doesn't believe it yet.
And Melchizedek gives him the core concept of the whole book.
He does, the personal legend.
How does he define it? Is it just destiny?
He defines it simply as what you have always wanted to accomplish. It's that deep-seated dream or purpose. And he makes this really interesting point about age.
What's that?
He says, when you're young, it all seems clear. It feels possible. You're not afraid to dream big. But then as you get older, we call it a mysterious force.
Like society, fear, responsibilities.
All of that, yeah. This force starts whispering that your dream is impossible. It convinces you to give up.
And that ties right into the next big idea Melchizedek drops, doesn't it? The world's greatest lie.
Absolutely. He states it very bluntly, that at a certain point in our lives, we lose control of what's happening to us, and our lives become controlled by fate.
That resonates. So many people feel that way. Trapped by circumstances, jobs, the economy, like they're just passengers.
Exactly. It taps right into that modern feeling of powerlessness. Coelho, through the king, is saying that feeling of having lost control. That's the lie. Surrendering your agency, believing you're just subject to fate, that's the biggest deception. You always control the pursuit, even if the outcome feels uncertain.
Okay, but then comes the counter-argument, the more hopeful side, the conspiracy of the universe.
Right. This is maybe the most quoted line from the book. When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it.
But hang on. If the universe is conspiring for us, why is following your personal legend always seems so incredibly hard in the book? Why all the suffering and setbacks for Santiago?
That's the crucial nuance Melchizedek adds. It's when you truly want something, a desire that originates from what he calls the soul of the universe, essentially your true mission on Earth. Then the universe conspires.
So the desire itself has to be authentic, aligned with this bigger soul.
Yes. And the setbacks, they aren't the universe failing you. They're part of the conspiracy. They're the tests, the lessons, the challenges the universe throws at you to teach you what you need to know to actually handle the achievement when you get there. The path is there, but the growth required isn't painless.
So finding and following that legend is our only real obligation. But even the spiritual guidance, this big cosmic truth, it comes with a price tag.
Always a price. Melchizedek demands payment for his wisdom. 6 sheep, a tenth of Santiago's entire flock.
That's significant.
It's not just about the money or the sheep themselves, it's the act of sacrifice. Santiago has to give up a substantial part of his known, comfortable life, his livelihood, to demonstrate his commitment to this unknown, maybe impossible journey.
And in return for the sheep.
He gets 2 stones, Urim and Thummim, one black, one white, representing yes and no. Melchizedek explains their ancient tools for divination, supposedly the only kind God permitted, carried by priests in the Old Testament.
So ancient holy artifacts, but only after a major sacrifice. That's a pattern.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Give up the familiar to gain the tools for the unknown. And then Melchizedek gives him one last piece of advice, that famous story.
The spoon and the drops of oil?
Exactly. The wise man tells a visitor to carry a spoon with 2 drops of oil around his palace without spilling them, while also seeing all the wonders. The boy comes back, oil intact, but he saw nothing. The wise man sends him again. This time he sees the wonders, but spills the oil.
And the lesson.
The secret of happiness is to see all the marvels of the world and never to forget the drops of oil on the spoon. It's about balance. The oil is your personal legend, your core mission. The marvels are the experiences, the beauty, the lessons of the journey itself. You can't get lost in the goal and miss the journey. But you also can't get so lost in the journey that you forget why you started.
Profound. Okay, so he sold the sheep, he's got the king's blessing, the stones, some cash, and he gets on a boat, crosses the Strait of Gibraltar to Africa. The quest is truly underway.
He lands in Tangier, Morocco.
Yeah.
And boom, reality check. Melchizedek mentioned beginner's luck, that initial phase where things go well.
Yeah, that runs out fast.
Instantly, he meets a young man who speaks Spanish, seems helpful, offers to guide him to the pyramids. Santiago trusts him. They go to buy a camel. Santiago gets distracted by a beautiful jeweled sword.
And the helpful young man vanishes with all his money.
Every last bit, the gold he got from selling his entire flock, gone, just like that.
Devastating, utterly crushing, alone, broke, in a foreign land where he doesn't even speak the language, the shame, the regret.
And it's right there, sitting alone and miserable in the marketplace, that Coelho presents him with maybe the most important psychological pivot point in the entire story.
Which is?
He has a choice in how he frames this disaster. He can see himself as a poor victim of a thief.
Which would mean accepting the world's greatest lie, right? That fate controls him.
Exactly. Or he can choose to see himself as an adventurer in quest of his treasure.
And he picks adventurer.
He does. And that single mental shift, that refusal to adopt the victim narrative, is arguably the first really active step he takes towards owning his destiny. It's painful, but it's empowering.
He checks his pouch. All that's left is his jacket, a book he can't trade, and the 2 stones, Urim and Thummim.
And in desperation, he tries to use them. He asks, "Is the king's blessing still with me?" He pulls out a stone. It's yes.
Oh, okay, some hope.
Then he asks, "Am I going to find my treasure?" And as he reaches in, the stones slip through a hole in the pouch he didn't know was there and fall onto the ground.
Huh. What does that signify?
It's another lesson from Melchizedek coming true. The king had warned him the stones were only for when he absolutely couldn't read the omens. They weren't meant for constant reassurance or to avoid making choices.
So them falling out means?
He realizes he shouldn't be asking questions that might tempt him to give up or avoid the struggle. He needs to rely on himself, on observing the world, on making his own decisions. He even considers sewing up the hole but decides against it. He thinks maybe the stone should be free to fall out if he asks the wrong things as a reminder. It forces self-reliance.
Okay, so hardship forces growth. And that hardship leads him eventually to the crystal merchant.
Yes. He needs work, needs money. He offers to clean the crystal glasses in a dusty, declining shop. And this whole section working for the merchant becomes this powerful study in inertia, stagnation.
Describe the merchant.
He's been in the same shop on the same declining street for 30 years.
Yeah.
Business is slow. He knows things could be better, but he's fundamentally afraid of change. Afraid to innovate, afraid to risk anything. He's stuck.
And he embodies that fear of fulfillment.
Absolutely. He has this lifelong dream to make the pilgrimage to Mecca, the Hajj, one of the 5 pillars of Islam, a core obligation he feels deeply.
He hasn't gone.
Never. And he tells Santiago why, quite explicitly. "I'm afraid that if my dream is realized, I'll have no reason to go on living." He says, "I just want to dream about Mecca."
Wow. That's incredibly sad, but also weirdly understandable. The dream itself, the hope of it, has become his reason for being more than the actual experience would be.
It's a cage made of hope. The anticipation has replaced the action. It's become his routine. And Coelho uses him as this stark warning against letting dreams just stay dreams.
And the merchant recognizes Santiago's arrival as significant.
He does. He sees Santiago's energy, his ideas like cleaning the crystals, later suggesting they sell tea in the glasses to attract customers. He sees it all as an omen, a blessing that's bringing life back to his shop. But then he says that haunting line, "Every blessing ignored becomes a curse." He knows Santiago's pushing him to change, to confront his deferred dream, and he resists it. He feels cursed by the very potential Santiago represents because he refuses to act on it.
While Santiago's working there, though, he's learning. He notices the candy seller nearby, communicates perfectly with the merchant, even though one speaks Arabic and the other Spanish.
Right. No common verbal language, but perfect understanding. This is Santiago starting to grasp the language without words.
What is that exactly?
It's the universal language. Enthusiasm, shared purpose, love, determination. Things communicated beyond spoken words. Santiago starts using it instinctively. His idea to sell tea in the crystal glasses, it works brilliantly. Not just because it's a good business idea, but because he pours his own spirit, his alegria, his joy and purpose into the task. He's learning to read the world and interact with it on this deeper, nonverbal level. He's shifting from being passive or just reacting to being this intuitive actor.
And during this time, he keeps hearing the crystal merchant use the Arabic word
Maktub. It is written.
which sounds like fatalism, like the world's greatest lie again.
It can sound like that, but it's more complex in the way Coelho uses it. It's not passive resignation before acting. It's more like an acceptance of destiny's flow after you've done everything you can. The merchant says when he finally agrees to let Santiago build a display case and sell tea, he's acknowledging that some forces, like Santiago's drive, which is improving his business, are like a river you can't hold back. You act, you strive, and then you accept what is written.
So Santiago works there for almost a year, saves up a good amount of money, enough to buy double the sheep he lost. He could go home.
He could. And the temptation is huge. Spain is familiar, comfortable. The desert, the pyramids, that's vast, unknown, dangerous. He almost gives in.
What stops him?
The merchant, ironically. The merchant points out that Santiago won't buy the sheep, even though he says he will. He knows Santiago is different now. And as Santiago is packing, he finds Urim and Thummim in his bag. He remembers the king, the promise, the personal legend.
Never stop dreaming.
Right. He realizes going back to being a shepherd is just returning to what he already knows. It's safe, but it's not the legend. He makes a choice. He takes all the money he earned and uses it to join a caravan crossing the Sahara towards Egypt. He chooses the unknown again. He's overcome the pull of the comfort zone.
Okay, so he joins this massive, slow-moving caravan heading across the desert towards an oasis called Al-Fayoum. And on this leg of the journey, he meets the Englishman.
He's such a perfect foil for Santiago at this point. A complete contrast in how they approach learning and the world.
How so?
The Englishman is pure intellect, pure book learning. He's obsessed with alchemy, lugging around suitcases full of dense, coded ancient texts. He's searching for the secret masterwork, the philosopher's stone, the elixir of life. He believes the answers are all written down, hidden in complex symbols and processes.
While Santiago
learns by doing, by observing. He watches the caravan, the camels, the silent desert nomads. He listens to the desert itself, realizing it speaks a language, the language without words, just like the sheep did, just like the crystal merchant and the candy seller did. He learns through intuition and lived experience.
The Englishman gets frustrated with Santiago's lack of interest in his books, but he mentions the ultimate alchemical text.
The Emerald Tablet, yeah. He says the entire secret of alchemy, the masterwork, is supposedly written in just a few lines on a single piece of emerald.
Which is a total paradox. If the secret is that simple, why all the complicated books he's carrying?
Exactly. And the Englishman offers a cynical explanation. He suggests that over time, people started rejecting simple truths. They made knowledge deliberately complicated, maybe to protect it, maybe to make themselves seem important, so that those who have the responsibility for understanding can understand. It's a critique of intellectual gatekeeping.
Whereas Santiago is learning that the real alchemy, the real transformation, happens by connecting with something else entirely.
The soul of the world. Yes, that's the term the Englishman introduces him to. But Santiago starts understanding it through his own observations.
Let's unpack that. What exactly is the soul of the world in the book's universe?
It's presented as this kind of universal life force, a collective consciousness connecting everything: rocks, plants, animals, people, even thoughts. It's not static. Everything in it is interconnected and constantly striving.
Striving for what?
To become better, to fulfill its own unique purpose, its own personal legend. Minerals strive to become plants, plants strive to become animals, and so on. And the soul of the world communicates through omens, signs, coincidences, moments of intuition to guide those who are trying to follow their own legends.
And Santiago starts tapping into this by looking at sand.
Yeah, he focuses on the simple things. He holds a grain of sand and understands that even it is part of this grand process, playing its role. He learns by listening to the silence of the desert, by watching the hawks fly. He's accessing this deeper reality through presence and attention, not through books.
But the biggest connection he makes, the moment the universal language becomes clearest for him, is through love. He reaches the Al-Fayoum oasis and meets Fatima at the well.
Ah, Fatima, yes.
What?
This is a pivotal moment. Coelho really emphasizes it. Time literally seems to stop for Santiago when he sees her. He just knows.
Knows what?
That this is the woman he loves, has always loved, even before he met her. He understands in that instant that love is the purest form of the language of the world. It's ancient, universal, understood without words. He feels it's something older than humanity, more ancient than the desert.
He even connects it back. He thinks the wind, the levanter, carried her scent to him when he was back in Spain with his sheep. It feels predestined.
Totally. This connection feels like the culmination of everything he's learned about interconnectedness. Finding her feels like finding a crucial part of his own legend. He thinks his quest would be meaningless without this love.
Which makes the next encounter incredibly difficult. He's found love, meaning a place in the oasis, and then the alchemist shows up.
The actual alchemist the Englishman was looking for, he appears dramatically, falcon on his shoulder, radiating power. Santiago, high on love, tells the alchemist he's staying. Fatima is his treasure now, more important than the pyramids.
And the alchemist gives him a pretty brutal reality check.
Oh, it's chilling. He basically lays out Santiago's future if he chooses comfort over his legend now. Year 1, happiness, wealth as an oasis counselor, marriage to Fatima. Year 2, he'll remember the legend, the omens will start calling again, he'll ignore them. Year 3, the omens fade, Fatima will be sad because he stopped his quest. Year 4, the omens are gone completely, he'll be rich, respected, but he'll live the rest of his life knowing deep down that he betrayed his dream, that he gave up out of fear, and will haunt him forever.
It's harsh, but it drives home the book's absolute stance on love and destiny.
It does. The alchemist states it unequivocally. Love never keeps a man from pursuing his personal legend. If the person uses love as an excuse to stop, then it wasn't true love, not the kind that speaks the language of the world. It was just attachment, maybe possession or fear, disguised as love.
True love supports the quest.
It must. And Fatima herself reinforces this. She's a woman of the desert. She understands freedom and destiny. She doesn't cling. She tells Santiago she wants him to go to be as free as the wind. She says, if I am really a part of your dream, you'll come back one day.
Her faith becomes his permission, his fuel.
Exactly. But making that choice, deciding to leave Fatima and the safety of the oasis to continue into the dangerous desert, that creates huge inner turmoil for Santiago.
His heart starts talking to him.
Yeah, literally, his heart speaks of fear, of potential loss, of maybe betraying the love he's found. It's afraid of suffering.
And the alchemist gives him the key to handle this internal battle.
Crucial advice. Probably the most psychologically potent piece of wisdom in the book. He tells Santiago, tell your heart that the fear of suffering is worse than the suffering itself.
To say that again?
The fear of suffering is worse than the suffering itself. And that no heart has ever suffered when it goes in search of its dreams, because every second of the search is a second's encounter with God and with eternity.
Wow. So it's the anticipation of pain, the worry about failing or losing, that paralyzes us more than the actual experience of hardship.
Precisely. Like the crystal merchant, trapped by the fear of realizing his dream, the alchemist argues that the very act of pursuing your dream, every moment spent on that path, is inherently valuable. It connects you to something timeless, something divine, and that connection transcends any temporary pain.
So listening to your heart doesn't mean obeying its fears. It means acknowledging them, understanding them, and then choosing the legend anyway.
Yes. Once Santiago truly listens to his heart, acknowledges its fears without letting them rule him, he finds immense courage. He accepts that fear is part of being human, but it doesn't have to be the dictator of his choices. He's ready for the final leg.
Okay, so Santiago commits. He chooses the legend, agrees to leave Fatima and ride with the alchemist towards the pyramids. And immediately, the universe throws him a massive test.
A really high-stakes one. He's observing the desert, fully tuned in now, and he sees two hawks flying in a particular way. He has a sudden, violent vision of armies invading the peaceful oasis.
An omen, a terrifying one.
He understands it's a warning from the soul of the world. He feels compelled to tell the tribal chieftains who rule the oasis, even though it's taboo to speak of war there, and strangers aren't usually trusted. The lead chieftain is incredibly wise. He listens intently, and he actually references the Bible story of Joseph in Egypt, who interpreted Pharaoh's dreams and saved the land from famine. He sees the connections sometimes. The tradition must accommodate omens. They decide to prepare.
And the vision comes true.
It does. Armed tribesmen attack the oasis, breaking the desert truce. But because of Santiago's warning, the oasis men are ready. They fight back and win decisively, saving Al-Fayoum.
So Santiago is hailed as a hero, rewarded. 50 pieces of gold, offered the position of counselor to the chieftains. He could be set for life right there.
He could. But the alchemist knows the journey isn't over. And now comes the ultimate test. Not just of intuition, but of Santiago's connection to the soul of the world, his actual power.
This is the win challenge.
Yes. They're captured by a different warring tribe soon after leaving the oasis. To save their lives, the alchemist makes an outrageous claim. He tells the tribal leader that Santiago is a powerful alchemist who could turn himself into the wind and will demonstrate it in 3 days. If he fails, they'll offer their lives.
He puts Santiago completely on the spot. Can he actually do that?
He doesn't think so at first. He's terrified. But the alchemist insists. This 3-day period becomes the book's metaphysical peak. Santiago has to go beyond just reading omens. He has to actively commune with the fundamental forces of nature.
How does he do it?
He talks to the desert. He talks to the wind. He talks to the sun. He engages each element in this deep philosophical dialogue about love, destiny, and the interconnectedness of everything through the soul of the world. He argues that everything is constantly striving, evolving, seeking its own legend, and that love is the force that drives this transformation. They acknowledge their own limitations and point him higher. The desert says, talk to the wind. The wind says, talk to the sun. The sun says, talk to the hand that wrote all.
God.
Yes. And in that final communion, praying without words, Santiago has this profound realization. The soul of God is his own soul. They are connected. And because of that connection, he can tap into the power of creation itself.
And he turns into the wind.
He unleashes the simum, a terrifying desert windstorm. It blows so fiercely the tribesmen are blinded, terrified. The wind carries Santiago across the encampment. He doesn't literally dissolve, but he performs a miracle that convinces everyone of his power. He has mastered the universal language and demonstrated his unity with the soul of the world.
Wow. Okay, that's the climax of his spiritual development.
Absolutely. His final exam passed. And right after this, the alchemist provides a more literal demonstration.
Of actual alchemy.
Yes. They reach a Coptic monastery near the pyramids. The alchemist borrows their kitchen, takes some lead, and using a sliver of the philosopher's stone and a few drops of the elixir of life, he transforms the lead into a disc of pure gold.
He actually does it.
He does. But he makes a crucial point to Santiago. This demonstration, turning lead into gold, that was the alchemist's personal legend, not Santiago's. It's proof that the masterwork is possible, but everyone's path is unique.
Before they part ways, the alchemist tells Santiago one last story about a Roman centurion.
Right, a good man in the Roman army whose servant was ill. He sought out Jesus for healing, but when Jesus offered to come to his house, the centurion said those famous words.
My Lord, I am not worthy that you should come under my roof, but only speak a word and my servant will be healed. Words still used in Mass today.
Exactly. And the alchemist points out that this centurion had 2 sons, one a poet, whose complex verses are forgotten, the other this military man. And it was the soldier's simple words of faith that achieved immortality.
What's the lesson there for Santiago?
The alchemist says, no matter what he does, every person on earth plays a central role in the history of the world. And normally he doesn't know it. It affirms that Santiago, the simple shepherd boy, by pursuing his unique legend, is just as central to the fabric of existence as anyone else. His journey matters on a cosmic scale.
Okay, so Santiago is finally alone again, just hours from the pyramids. He rides on, his heart literally guides him, telling him where to stop. He sees the pyramids, falls to his knees, weeps with gratitude. He digs where his heart tells him his tears fell. This is it, the treasure.
He digs and finds nothing.
Nothing after all that.
Nothing, except trouble. Refugees from the tribal wars, desperate and violent, find him digging. They assume he's burying something valuable. They beat him savagely, take the piece of gold the alchemist gave him. He's near death.
This feels like the ultimate cruelty, the final test.
A test of humility, perhaps. He thought he'd arrived. And then, the most brilliant twist in the entire book. As he lies bleeding, Santiago tells the robbers about his dream, about the treasure. The leader scoffs. He says he's not foolish enough to cross a desert because of a dream.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. The leader then says he had a recurring dream on that very spot. A dream about a treasure buried back in Spain, buried beneath a sycamore tree growing in the ruins of an abandoned church, where shepherds and their sheep often slept.
The exact place Santiago started, the treasure was home all along.
Exactly. The entire arduous, life-changing journey across the world was necessary not to find the physical location of the treasure, but to gain the experiences, the wisdom, the resilience, and finally, this one crucial piece of information from the robber that allowed him to recognize where the treasure truly was.
He had to leave home to learn how to find what was already there.
Precisely. So he makes his way back, all the way back to Andalusia, to the ruined church, the sycamore tree. He digs beneath it, and he finds it, a heavy wooden chest filled with old Spanish gold coins, precious stones, golden masks. The treasure was real, and it was waiting right where his journey began.
Incredible. And he puts the stones, Urim and Thummim, in the chest.
He does, as a reminder of the king, of the journey, of the price and the lessons. It honors the path he took.
And the very end.
A beautiful sensory touch. The wind starts to blow the levanter, the east wind that blows from Africa toward Spain. It carries across the desert the scent of Fatima's perfume, and he feels the touch of her kiss.
Signifying
Her enduring faith, the promise of their reunion, the completion of the circle, love and destiny intertwined, waiting for his return. So looking back at Santiago's whole odyssey, from that comfortable shepherd boy worried about his sheep schedule to this, the book calls them warriors of the light. It's clear the personal legend isn't really about reaching a destination. It's about the transformation that happens along the way.
he had to lose everything, literally, to start gaining what mattered. He had to embrace that beginner's luck, survive the setbacks, learn that language of the world not from books, but from paying attention, from acting.
He had to face down that core human fear, the fear of suffering itself, which, as the alchemist said, is often worse than the actual suffering. He learned that real love, true love, doesn't hold you back from your destiny. It actually propels you towards it, demands your growth.
Provided it's the kind of love that embraces freedom, like Fatima's.
Exactly. And ultimately, he proved that the simplest things like a grain of sand, the flight of hawks, a recurring dream you have in your own backyard, these contain the most profound truths. But you often only recognize their value, become wise enough to see them after you've undertaken the journey.
Which brings us back to that central, maybe frustrating paradox. If the actual gold chest was waiting under that sycamore tree in Spain the whole time, why the trip? Why Egypt? Why the desert, the danger, the loss?
The geographical location didn't change, no. But Santiago had to. The man had to be completely remade. The suffering, the robbery, learning patience from the crystal merchant, understanding the soul of the world, confronting his own heart's fears, meeting the alchemist, finding Fatima. All of that was the real treasure, wasn't it?
The journey was the alchemy. It transformed him.
It was the curriculum he needed. The hardship built the spiritual strength, the wisdom, the interpretive skills required to finally understand the robber's words and recognize that the treasure was at home. He needed the whole wide world, all its beauty and its brutality, to truly appreciate the simple truth that was waiting for him all along.
So if the answer, the treasure, might already be close, maybe even within you or right where you started, what journey, what uncomfortable path away from the familiar do you need to take right now? What lessons or strengths do you need to gain out there in the world so that you can come back and finally recognize the value of what's waiting for you, transformed and ready to receive it?